Have you ever wondered why we cling so tightly to the things we own, the people we love, and even the very identity we hold dear? What if I told you that everything we believe to be ours, from possessions to relationships, is merely a fleeting illusion? Imagine a life where the fear of losing what you own no longer controls you. Could it be that letting go brings the true freedom we've all been searching for? 1. The illusion of ownership. Have you ever stopped to consider the things you hold most dear in your life, your possessions, your memories, or even your identity? Have you ever asked yourself, what if none of these things truly belong to me? We build entire worlds around our sense of ownership, don't we? We accumulate things, we attach ourselves to relationships, and we mold our identities based on what we possess. But what if that very belief is a mistake? What if the idea that, this is mine, is nothing more than an illusion? When you look at your body, what do you see? Do you truly own it? You didn't choose its shape, its height, or how it ages over time. No matter how much you care for it, your body changes in ways that you cannot control. Imagine trying to tell your body to remain young, to stay fit, or to never get sick, yet it doesn't obey. If it were truly yours, wouldn't it follow your commands? But instead, it grows older, weakens, and even gets sick, all without your permission. The truth is, we don't control our bodies. It moves on its own timeline, constantly changing, constantly shifting. So, if our bodies aren't truly ours, then what exactly do we own? And what about your thoughts? Have you ever tried sitting quietly, observing your mind? You'll quickly realize that thoughts come and go on their own. They arise unexpectedly, shifting from one idea to another without your permission. Some thoughts are pleasant, others uncomfortable, yet none of them ask for your approval to show up. If your own mind behaves like this, how much control do you really have? Your thoughts are not truly yours, yet you believe they are. We mistake ourselves for our thoughts, thinking that they define us, but they arise and disappear, fleetingly, like clouds in the sky. The more we try to hold on to them, the more elusive they become. Let's think about the things we hold on to, not just our possessions, but also our memories, our relationships, and even our idea of who we are. Why do we cling so tightly to these things? Do they really give us security, or are we simply afraid to let go? Consider the way we feel about material possessions. How many of us have become attached to our phones, our cars, or even a simple watch? These objects are just that, objects. Yet, when we lose them, we experience an inexplicable feeling of loss. Why? Because in our minds, they are part of us. This attachment is like a chain that we willingly bind ourselves with, thinking that holding on tightly will somehow make us more secure. But the truth is, the tighter we grip, the more fragile everything becomes. Imagine a monkey that reaches into a jar of nuts, grabs a handful, and then cannot pull its hand back out because the fist is too large. The monkey's fear comes not from the jar being locked, but from its refusal to let go of the nuts. Our minds work in exactly the same way. We hold on tightly to things, convinced that letting go will result in losing something important. But in reality, the tighter we grip, the more we suffer. This brings us to a powerful question: why do we cling to things that we can never truly control? Is it the sense of security that possession brings? Or is it simply a fear of change, of the unknown? We hold on to things, hoping they will provide us with comfort, but in the end, they only weigh us down, causing anxiety and restlessness. Take a moment to think about your own life. Are you holding on to something or someone because you fear losing it? Maybe it's a relationship that you try to control, or an identity that you desperately cling to. The more you try to hold on to it, the more strained the relationship becomes, the more fragile your sense of self is. Why do we continue to hold on to things that are slipping through our fingers? The more we try to possess, the more we lose, not just the things, but also the peace of mind that we so desperately seek. Let's consider a more practical example, the way we react to losing something small, like a pen or a notebook. These objects may seem insignificant, but when we lose them, we often experience an unexpected wave of frustration and anxiety. Why is that? It's not about the value of the object, but rather about the attachment we've placed on it. Our mind becomes so fixated on these objects, believing that they define us, that when they are lost, it feels like a personal loss. This feeling is not caused by the object itself, but by the mind's desperate attempt to cling to what it perceives as mine. This is where the teachings of Buddhism come into play. The Buddha teaches that our attachment to things, whether it's our body, our possessions, our relationships, or our identity, is the source of our suffering. The more we cling to these things, the more anxious and dissatisfied we become. Letting go doesn't mean rejecting life or abandoning everything that we love. It means seeing things for what they truly are, temporary, fleeting, and ultimately beyond our control. Consider this: if you let go of something that you've held on to tightly, what would happen? What would it feel like to release the weight of that attachment? Imagine yourself walking through life, carrying a heavy backpack filled with stones. Each stone represents something you cling to, a possession, a person, an idea about yourself. At first, the weight is manageable, but as the path gets steeper, the burden becomes unbearable. Eventually, you stop and set the backpack down. Immediately, you feel lighter. The relief is instant. The burden wasn't just the stones, it was the belief that you had to carry them. When you let go, you realize that the weight was never yours to carry in the first place. In Buddhism, this practice of letting go is not about renouncing everything you own or giving up on relationships. It's about recognizing that nothing truly belongs to you, and in that recognition, finding peace. When we stop trying to own everything, we are free to experience life without the constant fear of losing it. The less we hold on, the more we can embrace the present moment, fully and with open hands. So, next time you feel yourself clinging to something, ask yourself, does this really belong to me? Is it worth the anxiety and fear that comes with holding on? The Buddha teaches us that true freedom comes from letting go, from accepting the impermanence of life, and from learning to carry our burdens lightly. By letting go of the illusion of ownership, we can find a deeper sense of peace and freedom, one that doesn't depend on what we possess, but on our ability to embrace change, to accept what comes and goes, and to live in the present without fear. 2. The paradox of control and attachment. What does it mean to control something? We often think of control as a way to ensure that we can shape our world the way we want it. Control gives us the illusion of power, of certainty, of security. But what if that very desire for control is the root of our suffering? What if the more we try to control, the more we become trapped by it? This is the paradox of control and attachment. The harder we cling to something, the less control we actually have. Let's start with the body. We often think of it as ours. It's the vessel we inhabit, the thing that allows us to interact with the world. We go to the gym, we eat healthy, we take care of our bodies in hopes of maintaining control over them. Yet, despite all our efforts, the body constantly changes. It ages, it gets sick, it grows weak or tired without our permission. Think about it, no matter how much you try to control your body, it doesn't always respond the way you want. You can't command it to stay young forever, nor can you prevent it from showing signs of aging. It resists your attempts to control it. So, how much control do we really have over our own bodies? Now, consider your mind. Your thoughts, your emotions, these are often seen as extensions of your identity. We try to control our thoughts, managing what we think, how we feel. We even try to suppress certain emotions we don't want to experience, like anger or sadness. Yet, like the body, the mind has a mind of its own. Thoughts appear without warning, jumping from one idea to another, and emotions rise and fall like the tides. Have you ever tried to control your thoughts only to find that the more you try, the more they seem to spiral out of your control? The harder you grip, the more elusive they become. Here's a question for you: if your thoughts and emotions are not fully under your control, then are they really yours to command? Is your mind something that you can truly control? Or are you merely riding along with the current of thoughts and feelings, hoping that by forcing control, you will gain peace? Imagine trying to hold on to a rope that is constantly slipping through your fingers. The more tightly you grip, the more strained your hands become, and the more difficult it is to hold on. This is how we treat our thoughts and emotions. We believe that by controlling them, we can find stability, but instead, we only create more friction, more tension. The truth is, by trying to control everything around us, our body, our mind, our environment, we only invite chaos into our lives. But why do we feel the need to control? It's because control is linked to attachment. We attach ourselves to the idea that things should be a certain way, that our body should be healthy, our thoughts should be clear, and our life should be predictable. And when things don't go according to plan, when our body ages or our mind wanders, we feel a sense of loss, a sense of failure. But what if the source of that pain isn't the change itself, but the attachment to the idea that we can control everything? Take a moment and reflect on your own life. Where do you feel the need to control? Maybe it's in your work, in your relationships, or even in how you present yourself to others. What happens when things don't go as planned? Do you feel frustration or anxiety? Why do we respond this way when we encounter things outside our control? Let me share a story that might shed some light on this. A student once went to a wise teacher, deeply troubled by the chaos in their life. The student felt as though everything was slipping through their fingers, and no matter how hard they tried to control things, they couldn't make life fit into the neat little box they desired. The teacher told the student, "Imagine you are holding a bird in your hand. If you hold it too tightly, you will crush it. If you hold it too loosely, it will fly away. The key is not to hold it at all, but to simply allow it to rest in your hand. It is only when you stop forcing control that you can truly hold something." The lesson here is clear: attachment to control creates suffering. When we grasp at life, trying to force it to go our way, we lose the ability to truly experience it. The tighter we hold, the more we suffocate what we love. The more we cling to control, the more we push away peace. Now, let's look at attachment in relationships. We often hear the phrase, "If you love something, let it go." It seems counterintuitive, doesn't it? We think that if we love something or someone, we need to control and protect it, to hold on tight. Yet, when we try to control the people we love, we often suffocate them. A parent who is overly protective of their child, constantly trying to control their every move, might believe they are acting out of love. But in reality, their attachment to control stifles the child's growth, independence, and sense of self. Similarly, in romantic relationships, when one partner clings too tightly to the other, demanding constant attention and reassurance, the relationship begins to strain. Instead of love flourishing, it turns into possessiveness, distrust, and resentment. The very attachment that we think will protect the relationship ends up causing harm. It's only when we let go of the need to control that we create space for love to grow freely, without fear, without anxiety. This is the paradox of control: the more we attach, the less control we actually have. Our attempts to secure ourselves through control only make us more vulnerable to the very things we fear: loss, change, and uncertainty. The Buddha understood this paradox deeply. His teachings encourage us to embrace the impermanence of life, to accept that we cannot control everything, and to let go of our attachment to control. What would it feel like if you could let go of the need to control every aspect of your life? What if, instead of forcing outcomes, you allowed things to unfold naturally, trusting that life will guide you? It may seem like a risky proposition, but the paradox is that letting go of control brings peace. When you stop clinging to the illusion of control, you free yourself from the anxiety that comes with it. You begin to experience life in its fullness, as it is, without the burden of trying to make it fit your expectations. So, how can you begin to practice this in your life? Start by observing where you feel the most attachment to control. Is it in your body, your mind, your relationships, or your work? Notice when you begin to feel tense or anxious, when you're trying to force things to go your way. In those moments, take a step back. Breathe. Remind yourself that you don't need to control everything. Let go of the grip, just a little at a time. The paradox is clear: by relinquishing control, we gain the true freedom we've been seeking. It's not about passivity or inaction, it's about releasing the weight of attachment and allowing life to unfold naturally. In the end, we don't own life, we experience it. And that, in itself, is enough. 3. The mind's grasp and its consequences. Have you ever wondered how much control your mind really has over you? We often pride ourselves on being the master of our thoughts, yet the truth is that our mind can be our greatest source of suffering. Why do we cling so tightly to our thoughts, memories, and beliefs? And what happens when we allow our minds to grasp at things that are, in reality, fleeting and impermanent? The mind, much like the body, craves stability. It seeks a sense of control, of certainty, and in doing so, it attaches itself to things. The things we think, the emotions we feel, and the identities we create for ourselves, these become the anchor points of our mental world. We believe that by holding on to these things, we can navigate life safely. But the more tightly we grasp, the more we lose the very peace we seek. Let's begin with the nature of thoughts. If you try to observe your own mind for a moment, you'll quickly notice that thoughts are like clouds floating through the sky. They appear without warning, they change rapidly, and they vanish just as quickly as they come. Some thoughts are pleasant, others unpleasant, but none of them wait for your permission to show up. In fact, if you try to control your thoughts, you may find that the more you try to hold on to them, the more they slip away. The mind is constantly active, jumping from one thought to another, and yet we cling to these thoughts as if they are an unshakable part of who we are. But why do we do this? Why do we identify so strongly with our thoughts, believing they are a reflection of our true self? It's because we've been conditioned to think this way. Society teaches us that our thoughts define us, that our beliefs, opinions, and memories are the foundation of who we are. But what if this is a misconception? What if our thoughts are just passing phenomena, like waves in the ocean, arising and dissolving without our control? Consider this: if your thoughts are constantly changing, how can you truly own them? They come and go, like guests who visit without invitation. Yet, we cling to them as if they are permanent fixtures in our minds. We identify with our thoughts so much that they start to shape our sense of identity. When we have a thought about being successful, we might hold on to that thought, thinking it defines us. If we have a thought about being failure, we cling to that too, allowing it to dictate our self-worth. But in reality, neither of these thoughts is fixed. They are just passing ideas, influenced by our past experiences, fears, and desires. So, the question arises: if your thoughts are impermanent, are they really yours to own? This brings us to an important point: the consequences of our attachment to thoughts. The more we cling to our thoughts, the more we suffer. Think about the times when you've been stuck in a thought loop. Maybe you've dwelled on a mistake you made, a conversation you had, or a fear about the future. The more you focus on these thoughts, the more they seem to grow, until they overwhelm you. This is the mind's grasp at work. The more you hold on, the more entangled you become. The more you try to control your thoughts, the more they take control of you. Consider this image: you are walking through a dense forest, and you find yourself holding tightly to a branch. The more you try to hold on to it, the more the branch pulls at you, dragging you deeper into the woods. The harder you grip, the less control you have over the situation. This is how our minds work. The tighter we cling to thoughts, the more tangled we become, and the more trapped we feel. We create our own suffering by not letting go. The mind's grasp also affects our emotions. Think about the last time you experienced a strong emotion, perhaps anger, fear, or sadness. These emotions often arise unexpectedly, and we can feel them intensely. But instead of letting the emotion pass, we cling to it. We try to control it, we analyze it, we resist it, believing that somehow this will make us feel better. But in doing so, we only fuel the fire. The more we grasp at the emotion, the more it grows. The more we try to suppress or control it, the more it takes over. Here's a powerful question to reflect on: what would happen if you simply allowed your emotions to arise and pass without trying to control them? What if, instead of holding on tightly to your anger or fear, you let them move through you, like waves crashing on the shore? Would you experience less suffering? In Buddhism, this is called the practice of mindfulness, observing your thoughts and emotions without attachment. When you stop clinging to them, they lose their power over you. You begin to experience life with more clarity and peace. But the mind doesn't just grasp at emotions and thoughts. It also clings to memories and experiences. How often do we identify ourselves by our past? We think of ourselves as a product of our experiences, and we hold on to memories as if they define who we are. We cling to the past, afraid to let go of the stories we've told ourselves about our lives. But when we do this, we miss out on the present moment. We live in the past, trapped by the mental constructs we've built around our memories. Imagine you are holding a photograph from your childhood. You look at the photo and remember the past, but you can't change it. The more you stare at the photo, the more you yearn for that time, as if holding on to it will somehow bring it back. But the past is gone. The moment you experienced then is no longer here. And yet, you continue to grasp at it, believing that by holding on to the past, you can somehow reclaim it. The same goes for our self-image. We often create an identity based on our past experiences, labeling ourselves as successful, shy, outgoing, or broken. These labels become part of who we think we are, and we cling to them as if they are permanent. But these labels are not who we truly are. They are just mental constructs that we hold on to, preventing us from seeing the truth of who we are in the present moment. Here's another question: if your identity is constantly shifting, how can you truly own it? If you are not the same person you were 5 years ago, or even 5 minutes ago, then how can you say that your identity is fixed? The truth is, we are not static beings. Our thoughts, emotions, and identities are fluid, constantly changing. And that's the beauty of life. But when we cling to the illusion of a fixed self, we trap ourselves in a box, unable to grow or experience life fully. So, what can we do to break free from the mind's grasp? First, we must recognize that our thoughts, emotions, and identity are not permanent. They are simply passing phenomena, like clouds in the sky. The more we try to control them, the more we become entangled. The key is to let go of the need to control, to observe our thoughts and emotions without attachment. In Buddhism, this practice is known as non-attachment, the ability to experience life without clinging to it. Think about it: if you stop clinging to your thoughts, emotions, and memories, you will experience life as it is, without the burden of attachment. You will see the beauty in the impermanence of life, and you will be free to grow and evolve. So, next time your mind starts to grasp at something, a thought, an emotion, or a memory, try to let it go. Observe it, but don't hold on to it. Let it pass, and in doing so, you'll find the peace that comes from releasing the mind's grip. 4. A Buddhist story, the grain of sand. In our lives, we often build up a sense of possession, a belief that what we own, what we have accomplished, and even the identities we create for ourselves are solid, unchanging truths. We create narratives about who we are and what we have, and we cling to them as though they are permanent. But what if, like a grain of sand, everything we hold so tightly is fleeting, fragile, and beyond our control? There's a powerful Buddhist story that sheds light on this illusion of ownership and the fleeting nature of life. Long ago, a mighty king, with vast wealth and a kingdom stretching beyond the horizon, stood before a wise teacher. The king was proud of his power, his riches, and the land he had conquered. With great arrogance, he boasted to the teacher, "I rule over this kingdom. Everything here is mine. My wealth, my people, my land, all of it is under my control. Nothing can take these things from me." The wise teacher, who had seen beyond the surface of material wealth and power, bent down, picked up a single grain of sand, and held it up to the king. "Can you take even this with you when you die?" the teacher asked. The king, struck by the simplicity of the question, fell silent. How could he answer? No matter how many palaces he built, no matter how vast his empire was, he could not take any of it with him when his time came. That single grain of sand shattered his illusion of ownership, that no matter how much he claimed to possess, nothing was truly his to keep. This simple moment in the story is profound in its message: nothing truly belongs to us. We spend our lives accumulating wealth, status, and experiences, but in the end, all of these are as impermanent as a grain of sand. No matter how tightly we cling to them, they cannot be taken with us when we depart this world. The king, who thought his power was absolute, had no answer because deep down, he knew the truth: everything he possessed would eventually slip through his fingers, just like that grain of sand. So, why do we continue to grasp at these illusions of ownership? Why do we cling to the things that are so transient? The truth is, our minds are wired to seek security, and ownership provides us with that sense of stability. We believe that if we hold on tight enough to the things in our lives, be it wealth, relationships, or even our own identity, we can protect them from the inevitable forces of change. But the more we cling, the more fragile these things become. The tighter we grip, the more we fear losing them. Think about your own life. What are you holding on to right now? Is it a possession, a relationship, or a belief about yourself? Perhaps it's something that gives you a sense of identity, a job title, a reputation, or a memory from your past. We cling to these things because we believe they define us. But just like the grain of sand, these things are temporary, subject to change and loss. No matter how tightly we hold on, they cannot be truly ours forever. The Buddha teaches that attachment to the impermanent is the source of suffering. When we tie our happiness and sense of security to things that we cannot control or keep, we set ourselves up for pain. We fear losing what we possess, and in that fear, we create anxiety, tension, and restlessness. The tighter we hold, the more we suffer. The story of the grain of sand also teaches us the value of humility. The king, who once thought he was invincible, was humbled by the realization that his possessions, his kingdom, and his very life were not truly his to control. The grain of sand, so small and seemingly insignificant, reminded him of the vastness of the universe and the impermanence of all things. This is the heart of Buddhist wisdom, to recognize the transient nature of life and to let go of our attachments. We are not here to accumulate, possess, or control. We are here to experience life as it is, with all its beauty and impermanence. When we learn to let go of the need to possess, we find true freedom. We can embrace life fully, without the constant fear of losing what was never truly ours. Think about this. What would it feel like if you could let go of your attachment to everything that defines you, your possessions, your relationships, and even your self-image? What if you could simply be, without the need to possess or control. The lesson from the grain of sand is that true peace comes not from holding on, but from releasing, from understanding that everything we cling to is temporary and that freedom comes from letting go. The Buddhist teachings are not about renouncing life or rejecting what we love. They are about seeing things as they truly are, impermanent, changing, and beyond our control. When we embrace this truth, we stop grasping at things, and in doing so, we find a deeper peace and a greater connection to the world around us. So, next time you feel yourself holding tightly to something, a possession, a memory, or even an idea of who you are, remember the grain of sand. Let go. Realize that nothing in this world is truly yours to own. And in that release, you will find the freedom to live more fully, with open hands and an open heart. 5. The fear of losing, the price of attachment. What is the true cost of attachment? We often hear people speak of attachment as if it's something innocent, even necessary. After all, aren't we supposed to love, cherish, and care for the people and things in our lives? But have you ever stopped to ask, what is the price we pay for this attachment? Is it truly worth the anxiety, the fear, and the suffering that often come with it? Attachment, at its core, is driven by the fear of loss. We cling to people, possessions, and experiences because we believe that by holding on tightly, we can prevent them from slipping away. But what if I told you that the very act of holding on tightly is what causes us to fear losing what we possess in the first place? It's the paradox of attachment. The more we try to hold on, the more we create a deep-rooted fear of losing it. Consider the example of someone who treasures a valuable possession. Maybe it's a family heirloom, an expensive watch, or even something seemingly insignificant but personally meaningful, like a favorite book or a photograph. In the beginning, this possession brings them joy. It's something they care about, and owning it feels good. But as time passes, the joy of owning it slowly transforms into something more suffocating, fear. Fear of it being broken, stolen, or lost. What once brought joy now brings anxiety. Every time they leave the house, they check to make sure it's still there. They worry about how to protect it. They fear the worst. And in doing so, that item, once a source of pride, becomes a burden. The same happens in relationships. At first, we feel secure in the love and connection we share with another person. But over time, if we are not careful, attachment to that person can turn into fear. We become afraid of losing them. We begin to control, to demand reassurance, and to act in ways that are driven by anxiety rather than love. What happens when the other person doesn't act the way we expect or desire? What happens when change comes, as it inevitably does? The more tightly we grip the relationship, the more strained it becomes, because, deep down, we are trying to control something that cannot be controlled. And when the inevitable changes occur, the distance, the shift in priorities, or the departure, we experience heartbreak, because we were not prepared for the reality of impermanence. But here's a crucial question to ask. What are we really afraid of when we fear losing something? Is it the loss itself, or is it the realization that we never truly had control over it in the first place? We convince ourselves that by controlling what we love, we can protect it from the uncertainties of life. But the truth is, life is always in motion, always changing, and nothing is truly ours to keep. By attaching ourselves too tightly to things, we set ourselves up for fear and anxiety. Let's take a moment to think about the deeper psychological impact of attachment. Studies in neuroscience show that when we lose something that we've grown attached to, whether it's a possession, a person, or even a goal, our brains respond as if we've experienced physical pain. The brain processes loss the same way it processes an injury. The emotional pain of losing something meaningful feels just as real as the pain of a physical wound. This is because the brain doesn't just see the world in terms of objects, it sees everything as an extension of itself. When we lose something we consider ours, it feels like a personal attack. It challenges our very sense of identity and security. Imagine this, you've been carrying a heavy bag for hours, believing that you need it to feel safe. But the longer you carry it, the more exhausted you become. You start to feel the weight of it in your back, in your shoulders, and in your mind. You can't move freely. But then, when you finally set the bag down, the relief is immediate. You feel lighter. The burden was never the bag itself, it was the belief that you had to carry it. This is how attachment works in our lives. The more tightly we grip, the heavier it becomes, and the more it drains our peace and energy. Now, let's turn to the stories that help illustrate this powerful teaching. A wealthy merchant once came to the Buddha, distressed by his constant fear of losing his riches. He said, "I cannot sleep, I cannot enjoy my wealth, for I am always worried about thieves stealing what I have. How can I find peace?" The Buddha, with his usual calm wisdom, told the merchant, "Then give away what you cannot keep." The merchant, thinking the Buddha meant he should give away all his possessions, was initially confused. But the Buddha's deeper teaching was about letting go of the attachment, the mental weight, that the merchant had placed on his wealth. The merchant's suffering came not from the wealth itself, but from his fear of losing it. By letting go of the mental attachment, the merchant could release the anxiety that came with ownership. This story highlights an important lesson: attachment is not about what we possess, but about how we relate to it. When we believe that our possessions, our relationships, or our achievements are the keys to our security and happiness, we create an illusion of control. But the more we grasp at them, the more fear we invite into our lives. The Buddha's message is not to reject wealth, love, or success, but to understand that they are not ours to hold on to forever. Everything in life is impermanent. When we accept this truth, we are no longer bound by the fear of losing. Let's go back to the question of loss. Why do we fear it so much? Loss, in and of itself, is not inherently painful. It's the attachment that causes the suffering. If we could learn to embrace impermanence, to let go of the need to control, to possess, or to hold on, we would free ourselves from the weight of fear. We would find peace not in holding on, but in letting go. Think about the last time you experienced a loss. Perhaps it was the end of a relationship, the departure of a loved one, or the loss of a job. How did you react? Did you feel overwhelmed by the fear of never finding happiness again? Did you feel as though a part of you was missing? What if, instead of fearing the loss, you accepted it as a natural part of life's flow? What if you saw loss as an opportunity for growth, a chance to release the mental weight of attachment and make room for something new? By understanding that attachment is the source of our fear, we can begin to release the grip we have on life's fleeting moments. The Buddha's teachings on non-attachment show us that the more we let go, the more we free ourselves from fear. The more we stop trying to possess, the more we open ourselves to the beauty of the present moment. What would it be like if you could live without the constant fear of loss? What if you could embrace each moment, knowing that it's not yours to hold forever, but that it is beautiful precisely because it's temporary? The fear of losing is the price we pay for attachment. But the moment we release our grasp, we step into a new world, one of freedom, peace, and joy. 6. The path to freedom, letting go. What would it feel like if, for just a moment, you could set down every burden you've been carrying? What if you could release all the things you believe define you, your possessions, your status, your relationships, and even the idea of who you are? Would it bring relief or fear? We often believe that holding on to these things is what gives us stability and control. But the truth is, it is only in letting go that we find the true freedom we've been seeking. Letting go is not about rejecting the world or abandoning what we love. It's about releasing the mental and emotional grip that we place on the things we cannot truly control. It's about recognizing that the more we cling, the more we suffer. The Buddha's teachings show us that attachment, to our possessions, our identity, and even our relationships, is the root of much of our pain. By holding on too tightly, we trap ourselves in a world of fear, anxiety, and restlessness. But the path to freedom lies in releasing these attachments, in loosening our grip and allowing life to flow freely. Think about it. When you hold on to something tightly, it begins to weigh you down. Imagine holding a heavy bag for hours, convinced you need to carry it. At first, it might not feel so bad, but as time passes, the weight starts to become unbearable. Your shoulders ache, your back hurts, and you begin to feel exhausted. The longer you hold on, the more tired you become. But the moment you release the bag, you feel lighter. The relief is immediate. This is what it feels like when we let go of the mental and emotional burdens we carry. We become lighter, freer, and more at peace. But why do we carry these burdens in the first place? It's because we believe that holding on is the only way to protect ourselves, to secure our happiness, and to ensure our survival. We believe that if we let go, we will lose something important, whether it's the love of others, our sense of self-worth, or our place in the world. We hold on to relationships because we fear being alone. We hold on to achievements because we believe they define our value. We hold on to memories because we think they define who we are. But in doing so, we trap ourselves in the past, unable to experience the present moment fully. In Buddhism, the practice of letting go is called non-attachment. It's not about withdrawing from life or becoming indifferent. It's about being fully present without clinging to the past or the future, without trying to control what is beyond our reach. Non-attachment means accepting the impermanence of life, understanding that nothing is permanent, not even our thoughts, emotions, or relationships. When we accept this truth, we are no longer bound by fear, anxiety, or the need to possess. We can live more freely, with an open heart and an open mind. One of the most powerful lessons the Buddha taught was that true freedom comes not from holding on, but from letting go. In fact, the more we let go, the more we receive. Let me explain. We often think that by holding on to something, we are protecting it, but in reality, we are only suffocating it. A plant needs space to grow, just as relationships need freedom to flourish. The more we try to control something, the more fragile it becomes. But when we let go, we give space for it to grow in its own way. Take, for instance, the way we often cling to our identities. We identify with our job, our appearance, our achievements, and our past experiences. But what happens when these things change? What happens when we lose a job, age, or face an unexpected challenge? If we tie our identity to something external, we create a fragile sense of self that is easily shaken. But when we let go of these attachments, we find that our true identity, one that is not dependent on external circumstances, remains unshaken. We are free to evolve, to grow, and to experience life without fear of losing who we are. But letting go isn't always easy. It's one thing to understand that attachment causes suffering, it's another thing to put that understanding into practice. The mind resists letting go because it fears the unknown. It fears change. It fears loss. But the more we practice letting go, the more we realize that it is not loss at all, but freedom. The key is to start small, to observe where we are attached, and to begin releasing that grip. Here's an exercise you can try. Pick one thing that you feel attached to. It could be an object, a person, or even an idea of who you are. Now, for a few moments, simply observe how you feel about it. Notice the emotions that arise: fear, anxiety, possessiveness. Acknowledge these feelings, but don't act on them. Just observe. Then, gently tell yourself, this does not belong to me. Allow yourself to release the grip, even if just for a moment. With practice, you'll begin to see that the more you let go, the less fear you will have. You'll experience peace in the release, not loss. The Buddha often spoke about the importance of mindfulness in letting go. When we are truly mindful, we are fully present in each moment, without clinging to the past or the future. We experience life as it is, without judgment or attachment. Mindfulness allows us to see the impermanence of all things, the ebb and flow of our thoughts, the rise and fall of emotions, the fleeting nature of relationships. By practicing mindfulness, we become more comfortable with letting go, because we begin to see that nothing in life is permanent. Another aspect of letting go is cultivating generosity. When we let go of our attachment to possessions, we make space for generosity to flourish. Generosity is not just about giving away material things, it's about giving from the heart. It's about letting go of the belief that we need to hold on to everything for ourselves and recognizing that true happiness comes from sharing. When we give freely, we create space for more joy, more love, and more peace in our lives. But letting go also means letting go of our attachment to specific outcomes. How often do we find ourselves stressed or disappointed because things didn't turn out the way we expected? We plan, we strive, we set goals, and when they don't materialize exactly as we imagined, we feel frustrated. But the practice of letting go teaches us to embrace the flow of life, to trust that everything unfolds as it is meant to. When we release our attachment to a particular outcome, we free ourselves from disappointment and open ourselves up to unexpected opportunities. So, how do we begin the path to freedom? We start by observing our attachments. What are we holding on to that no longer serves us? What are we afraid to let go of? We acknowledge the fear that comes with releasing, but we don't let it control us. The path to freedom is not an overnight transformation, it's a gradual process of letting go, of becoming more aware of our attachments, and of choosing freedom over fear. The path to freedom is about embracing life as it is, not as we want it to be. It's about trusting that when we let go of the need to control, we will find peace. True freedom comes from within, from our ability to release the weight of attachment and embrace the impermanence of life. 7. Buddhist practice for letting go. Have you ever tried to simply let go? It's a question that many of us avoid asking, because letting go seems like an impossible task. Our minds are wired to hold on, to cling to what is familiar and comforting, even if it causes us pain. But what if I told you that the practice of letting go could be one of the most liberating and peaceful things you could ever do? What if the path to freedom lay in something as simple as releasing the tight grip we have on the things we believe define us? Buddhism offers many practices to help us let go, to loosen our attachment to the fleeting, impermanent nature of life. But one of the most powerful and simple exercises you can do is the practice of mindfulness paired with non-attachment. This practice helps us realize that the things we cling to, whether they are objects, memories, relationships, or even our own identity, are not permanent and are not truly ours to hold. By embracing this simple exercise, we can begin the process of letting go and, in turn, move closer to true freedom. Let's start with a fundamental question: what is it that you're holding on to? It could be something small, like a possession, or something large, like a past experience or a sense of self. Perhaps it's an old relationship that you can't seem to release, or a belief about yourself that's no longer true. No matter how insignificant or important, the act of holding on creates an emotional weight, and it's this weight that makes us feel anxious, fearful, and trapped. Here is where the practice of mindfulness comes in. Mindfulness is the practice of being fully present in the moment, observing your thoughts, feelings, and sensations without judgment or attachment. When we are mindful, we are not consumed by the past or the future, but we are deeply aware of the present moment. This awareness helps us see that everything, our thoughts, our feelings, and even the objects we own, are temporary and constantly changing. This realization is the key to letting go. The simple exercise for letting go. 1. Find a quiet space and center yourself. Begin by finding a quiet place where you won't be disturbed. Sit comfortably, either on a cushion or a chair, with your spine straight but relaxed. Close your eyes if you feel comfortable doing so, and take a few deep breaths. Let the air fill your lungs and exhale slowly, letting go of any tension or stress in your body. With each breath, bring your attention to the present moment. 2. Observe your attachments. Now, ask yourself, what am I holding on to right now? You might feel the pull of a specific thought, memory, or object. It could be an anxiety about the future, a fear of losing something, or a resentment about the past. Notice these thoughts and feelings without judgment. You don't need to change them or push them away. Just observe them as they arise. Like clouds passing in the sky, let them come and go. 3. Acknowledge the attachment. Once you've identified what you are holding on to, gently acknowledge it. Say to yourself, I am attached to this, whether it's a person, a situation, an object, or a belief. Acknowledge the feeling that arises when you think of it. Is it fear, longing, guilt, or a sense of security? By naming the attachment, you begin to create distance from it. You are no longer consumed by it, instead, you are simply observing it. 4. Practice the thought, this does not belong to me. Now, as you hold the attachment in your mind, gently repeat the phrase to yourself, this does not belong to me. As you say this, notice how your mind reacts. At first, you may feel resistance or discomfort. This is normal. Our minds are conditioned to cling to what we believe is ours. But as you continue to repeat the phrase, allow yourself to experience the feeling of release. Imagine that the thing you are attached to is like a leaf floating in the wind, drifting away from your grasp. 5. Release and let go. As you continue to repeat the phrase, this does not belong to me, visualize yourself loosening your grip on the attachment. Feel the weight of it lifting from your heart, your mind, and your body. You are not losing anything, rather, you are allowing it to flow freely, knowing that it will not define you. This is the heart of letting go, understanding that nothing is truly yours to possess. Let the attachment fade into the background, no longer controlling you. 6. Sit with the feeling of release. After you've released the attachment, sit quietly and simply be present with the feeling of freedom. Notice how your body feels lighter, how your mind becomes clearer. You may still feel the faint echo of the attachment, but it no longer has the same grip on you. The more you practice this exercise, the easier it becomes to let go of attachments, one by one. With each practice, you open yourself to greater peace and freedom. 7. Return to the present moment. Once you've finished the exercise, gently bring your focus back to the present moment. Breathe deeply again, and when you're ready, open your eyes. Notice how you feel. Are you more relaxed? Do you feel a sense of lightness or freedom? You've just practiced the art of letting go, and even if it's only for a few moments, you've experienced the power of release. This simple Buddhist practice teaches us that letting go is not a one-time event but a continual process. Every day, we have the opportunity to release something that no longer serves us. It may be a belief, a relationship, or a memory that holds us back. The more we practice this exercise, the more we begin to see that nothing in life is permanent, and nothing truly belongs to us. But let me ask you this. What would your life look like if you could truly let go of the need to control everything? What if you could stop holding on so tightly to your past, your regrets, and your fears? Would you be freer? More peaceful? The truth is, the more we let go, the more we open ourselves to life in its fullness. We stop being prisoners to our attachments, and instead, we become free to experience each moment as it comes, without the burden of fear, anxiety, or regret. As you continue this practice of letting go, remember this: the goal is not to become indifferent to life or detached from the people you love. It's about freeing yourself from the anxiety and suffering that comes from holding on too tightly. It's about embracing life fully, with all its changes, uncertainties, and imperfections. The path to freedom begins with one simple step: the willingness to let go. In the end, this truth is not a loss but a gift. By understanding that nothing truly belongs to us, not our possessions, not our relationships, not even our bodies, we can live more freely. The Buddha's teachings are not about rejecting the world but about seeing it for what it truly is, impermanent and always changing. When we stop clinging to what cannot be held, we open ourselves to a deeper kind of wealth, the wealth of peace, freedom, and love that no one can take away. So, let go. Not just of things, but of the fear that holds you back. Life becomes richer when we stop trying to control it. The less we try to own, the more we can embrace the beauty of the present moment, with open hands and an open heart. Thank you for joining me on this journey. If you found these insights helpful, please like, share, and subscribe to Serenity Path. Let us walk this path together, embracing the freedom that comes with letting go.